Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagara Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Sra. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to this Sri Isopanisad study. So, we'll be studying the verses of Sri Isopanisad over the next 6 weeks, taking 2 to 3 verses a day or a week. There are a total of 18 verses in this Isopanisad. And so today we'll be discussing the introduction and invocation for this wonderful scripture put by us. So the title of this Sri Isopanisad is Discovering the Original Person. And this is a very important one of our Upanishads. So in total, there are about 200 Upanishads, and of those, there are 108 main or principal. And then of those, there are 11 what we call main or most important Upanishads, and this is one of them. So this Sri Isopanishad, it comes from the Shukla Yajurveda, the 40th chapter of that. And so it's an important scripture for us to understand. And the purpose is to, again, as the title implies, discovering the original person. So in this book, we're going to develop a very clear understanding of the Supreme Lord and conclusively understand Him to be a person. This is one of the main objectives of this book, is to establish the Supreme Lord as a person, and we'll see as the original person. Right? So we'll see many things, the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, and these potencies, lead us to surrender to this, to the Supreme Lord, and to seek this Vedic knowledge under guidance of Guru. So the meaning of Upanishad, Sri Nandanand Prabhu in his website, gives a nice explanation that the Upanishad, the word Upanishad literally means to sit down, which sit down means shad, near upa, and at or below the feet with determination, ni. So this indicates the importance of the student sitting near the feet of the spiritual master and to listen with determination of those teachings. And only with this type of absorption can one actually apply these teachings in practice. So sitting near the feet of the Guru is both a sign of respect and humility, he says. So it is. This is the meaning. And the other meaning of Upanishad is to destroy. So the spiritual knowledge the student receives from the teacher destroys the ignorance. Actually, the word shad means also destroy. So to destroy the ignorance, of the nature of this world and who we are and oneself, one approaches these Upanishads. So this is the important understanding of this book. And we'll see many topics in this book. We'll see who is the proprietor of everything around us, who is the real owner, and how that should impact our lives. We'll discuss this Ishavasya principle. We'll understand how the world is controlled and managed, and understand that. So this Sri Isopanishad, we should understand it that it's a little enigmatic or mysterious. The way the verses are presented, it's meant for philosophers who enjoy the complexity and the poetry of how words are put together and meanings and indirect meanings. So the Sri Isopanishad, the verses are written in a way that entices or appeals to the very scholarly philosophers. And so it's sometimes the meanings can be a little, again, enigmatic or difficult to understand, hard to understand. So we're going to rely, as we always do, on the extraordinary purports from Srila Prabhupada and other commentaries to unpack these verses. Because when you read these verses at face value, sometimes they're a little bit bewildering. But I understand that there's a purpose for that. That the Sri Isopanishad, again, was written in a way to appeal to the philosophers who, kind of enjoy that aspect of composition. Okay, so the contents of this, it's broken up into sections. The first 3 verses, we're going to understand who is the proprietor of everything around us and how that should impact our behaviors, our activities, and what happens when we understand and act in this knowledge of who is the proprietor, and we'll also see what happens when one does not. So we'll see both of those. We'll understand the position of Krishna and his inconceivable potencies. And then we'll discuss the types of knowledge and where they take us. And we'll discuss, the ignorant and the knowledgeable and the different types of people who do not have knowledge. And then the Sri Isopanishad concludes with some very beautiful prayers to the Lord, begging to be able to see the form of the Lord very nicely. So this is the kind of construct of this book. So the introduction, as you see, it is a transcription of a lecture Srila Prabhupada gave in London, and he was speaking in 1969. So pretty early time of this movement, and he gives this very wonderful lecture, and that's being presented as the introduction to this Sri Isopanishad. Okay, so we'll start discussing that. And Prabhupada establishes right in the beginning this word Veda. Veda means knowledge. Any kind of knowledge that we acquire is considered Veda. And the Vedas is the original knowledge. And when we say original knowledge, it means all other information and knowledge we come, ultimately stems from this. And this contains all of the pertinent and relevant knowledge for us. So we're going to be instructed on how to, inspire us to approach the Vedas and this Vedic literature for the betterment of our existence. Okay. So we'll discuss that today. So in the introduction, we see that there are 4 defects of our ability to acquire knowledge on our own. So any material knowledge, any what we call man-made knowledge, it is flawed because every human, every living entity has these 4 imperfections. The imperfect senses, Prabhupada gives the example of if the lights are off, you cannot see even your hand, which is just a few feet away from you. So our senses are very imperfect. We tend to be illusioned. We accept things that are not actually fact. That is he gives the definition of Maya. What is not? Maya has us thinking we are this body, but we are not this body. It is the greatest of illusions. Right? So in the human form of life, we tend to be illusioned. We commit mistakes. To err is human. And we see over and over, not only in our own lives, all around us, so many mistakes are made. And there's this cheating propensity. Because we make mistakes, because we're imperfect, we try to cover up, pose ourselves to be learned, but don't know much, actually. So these 4 defects, the implication is that we must go to a higher source to understand knowledge. The only way to get guaranteed knowledge, correct knowledge, is to hear from the original source, and that is the Vedas. It is the original composition of knowledge. And the Vedas are infallible. They are perfect. They're called Aparishya because they come from the perfect source, Krishna. Because we are not perfect, whatever knowledge we give is also imperfect. But because Krishna is giving this knowledge as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the perfect person, then whatever knowledge he gives also is perfect. It's just by definition. If you are perfect, you cannot give then any tinge of imperfect knowledge. Right? So our 4 defects, they limit our ability to acquire knowledge. Right? We cannot see with our own eyes. We cannot understand with our own limited intelligence. We have very limited intelligence. So this knowledge from our own, again, is very, very defective. So this is the reason we must turn to Shastra for reliable knowledge. It is the only source that we can rely upon. And Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing this very, significantly in the introduction. Right? So, now the Vedas, they contain these axiomatic truths. And what an axiomatic truth means is that we accept them without need for testing or analysis. We just accept them as it is. Oh, it's an injunction in the Vedas? Okay, then it must be true. Because the original knowledge, it has things that are seemingly contradictory. Like, and Prabhupada gives the example of cow dung. So we know that the stool of any animal or any living entity is impure. Yet, in the Vedas, it's explained that cow dung is pure and can be used actually also in the worship. So what to do? How do we understand? If we do some material analysis, what is it going to tell us? So we take that, because it's in the Vedas, as within the source of perfect knowledge, as it is. And so we'll see, even in the Isopanisad, there are many, seemingly contradictory statements, but they are not contradictions. They are actual facts. And so the injunctions here in the Vedas, all of our Vedic injunctions, they don't need to be interpreted. We just follow as it is. We may explore and try to understand why it's right, but not, let me prove it's right. We should understand it is actually proven. It is a fact. Now let me explore why. That is okay. But we should be careful not to, approach and saying, well, I need to prove it. Because in that way, it's very, very difficult. So we'll see that every injunction in the Vedas, in time, it's all proven correct. So then why waste the time? It's already being proven correct over and over and over again. And we see so many predictions in Srimad Bhagavatam, so many statements in Srimad Bhagavatam that have been made thousands of years ago. And now modern science is proving to be correct. You know, whether we speak about the 7 continents, the earth being round, you know, the development of the embryo in the womb of the mother. These are all constantly being proven right now. So we may ask the question, then what's the point of all this scientific research? It's all given already in our Vedic literatures. So we can just accept it as it is. So these are the axiomatic truths. And how to accept it? Our knowledge there, Shruti, which means it is to be heard. This knowledge is acquired by hearing. You know? And hearing from who? Where does the source? The Supreme Lord. So the Vedas are not some human compilation based on some analysis and theories. You know, we have this pratyaksha praman, we observe and scientifically do observations and try to prove. Or we then speculate. Based on what we observe, we try to then, you know, extrapolate or guess, hypothesize. But the Vedas are not like that. They are just to be heard. Right? So the knowledge we acquire from the Vedas are through hearing, and thus they are Shruti. And this knowledge, we have no other choice actually. Right? And when we hear from a bona fide authority and accept it, then we'll have success. Right? So it is not that we have to hear blindly. We should ask questions. We can inquire, but we should accept it as a fact. Right? So of the 3 ways to acquire knowledge, Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman, Srila Prabhupada is saying that this hearing, Shabda Praman, is the only reliable way to acquire knowledge. So he says that there are, you know, 2 reasons. One, it is reliable, it is safe, and it is efficient. It saves time. You know, it's reliable or safe because there's no errors. It comes from the perfect source. You know, Krishna, through the playing of his flute, imparted all of this Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma instructed Narada instructed Vyasa, and like this, it carried on. So the source, though, comes from, again, Krishna. Right? So because it's from the perfect source, it's safe. It has no errors. We'll never have to wonder, well, what if this is wrong? And we see all of our scientific knowledge. It is constantly changing. What they say today will change tomorrow. And our understanding of everything around us is so limited. So we cannot draw any perfect conclusions from the knowledge we get from the human analysis. It must come ultimately from Krishna, right? And then secondly, Prabhupada explains very nicely that it saves time. It's efficient. Because whatever analysis we do, ultimately we're going to come to the conclusion that's already presented in the scriptures. So then why do our own analysis? You know, you can ask the question, you know, what is the point of all this research? There's so much research is being done in outer space. Are there other life forms or are there not? How many planets here? What's the size of this universe? Where is the end of the universe? All this research is being done. But all that knowledge is given in Shastra. So if we just accept it, it saves so much time and energy. And thus we can put our energy and efforts into something that is actually valuable. But because there is not faith in Shastra, there is so much endeavor to do all this research. But if you really step back and look at it, what's the point of it? There's no real value in it. So it's efficient to save time. You know? And to understand things beyond our realm of conception, you know, like the size of this universe, we're sitting on one tiny planet amongst millions of planets. No matter how big your telescope is, you're never going to be able to see the width and breadth of this universe. So to understand things beyond our realm, we must go to someone who has complete knowledge, and that is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So, you know, Prabhupada is, you know, really heavily emphasizing this importance of approaching the Shastra to acquire this perfect knowledge. So it is the only reliable and efficient way. Prabhupada gives the other example. You know, how to know who your father is. You have to ask mother. He says it's impractical that you're going to go and test all people and see who is my father. Yes, the scientific means is there to prove through DNA testing, but you have to know where to start. You just can't start randomly asking people. You must hear from mother. So like that, Prabhupada is saying that it is impractical for us to understand our existence, who we are, the realm of this universe, how it's constructed, how we can achieve the higher, and ultimate goals of life. It is impossible to do it on our own. And there's no point because it's already given in Shastra. So it is, again, it's safe, meaning it's perfect, and it's efficient. It saves time. So this is the Shastra. So where to hear this knowledge now is very important. And Srila Prabhupada, explains that we must go to a bona fide authority. This taking faith and knowledge in faith and hearing means we must make sure that we are hearing from a bona fide source. Ultimately, the knowledge comes from Krishna. There is no other source of this knowledge. And it is being passed down through disciplical succession. So we know that there are 4 bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas. And just short introduction here that we have the Brahma Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, the Shri Sampradaya, and the Sanat Sampradaya, or the Kumar Sampradaya. So these 4 Sampradayas were started by, or they, the initial propagator, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lakshmi Devi, and the Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras. And within that, there is a chief or main Acharya, who is explained and put together the teachings of this sampradaya, and that's Madhavacharya, Vishnu Swami, Ramanujacharya, and Nimbarkacharya. So the Vedic injunction, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master, and I just wanted to read a quote. Srila Prabhupada says at the bottom of page 12, he says that therefore the Vedic injunction is that one must approach, the word compulsory is used, a bona fide spiritual master, a guru. So it's we have no other choice, no other opportunity. One must approach this bona fide acharya. And then Srila Prabhupada presents in this introduction just a little bit of organization or structure of this of the different shastras. So, we have the Vedas, and Srila Vyasadeva put the Vedas to writing, because previously they were understood by oral reception. One would go and hear, and they would have everything understood and memorized. But due to the degraded condition of the living entity, of the human form of life, Srila Vyasadeva put to writing, because it was not able to be transmitted by pure oral reception anymore. And so in doing so, he broke up the Vedas into 4 parts: the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, the Riga Veda, and the Tharva Veda. But originally the Vedas are one. And then the Upanishads are like the appendices to the Vedas. They are connected. Then Srila Vyasadeva presented the Vedanta Sutra. And the Vedanta Sutras, they are the summary or the essence of the Vedas. So they are presented in aphorisms, which means short form statements that contain the essence of the Vedas. Okay? And then we have Srimad Bhagavatam. Because when Srila Vyasadeva had compiled all of the Vedas, all of the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutras, even the Puranas, he was still feeling unfulfilled. And thus, his spiritual master Narada Muni guided him that now you speak directly about Krishna, and you provide a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary an explanation of the Vedanta Sutras. And this is very important because each bona fide sampradaya must have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. So in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the appropriate and bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. But still there was some debate and discussion amongst the different sampradayas that the sampradaya was missing a commentary, and thus Baladev Vidyabhushan, he wrote a commentary under the guidance and direction of Radha Govindaji in Jaipur, and wrote the Govinda Bhashya. So that is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. But again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has established that Srimad Bhagavatam is the authorized commentary in this Brahma Sampradaya. And there is no need for any other Vedanta Sutra commentary. But to appease those who were calling into question the Brahma Sampradaya, they Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan compiles this Govinda Bhashya. So just a little bit of technical explanation here on the different constructs of the Vedas and our Vedic literature. And again, on Srinadana Prabhu's website, there's great information about all these different pieces of Shastra come together. It's very nice. So just two final points. And most importantly, we should remember that the aim of all Vedic Shastra, of all literatures, the goal is to understand Krishna. Right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaisya savar aham eva vedya. Of all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the point of studying this Shastra is to know Krishna. And so in this Isopanisad, we're going to be discovering this original person. Right? That is the title of this book, and that is the goal. So let's not lose sight of the goal. It is not to, understand all the different injunctions and have, it is ultimately to know Krishna. Okay? So now we'll discuss the invocation. And the invocation is a very famous verse. It is technically not part of the Isopanisad, but it's a common verse referred to in many places. And it connects very nicely the first three verses of Isopanisad. So it's being presented here as an invocation, but just again, from a pure technical standpoint, it is not within the Isopanisad. So in the beginning of the invocation, Srila Prabhupada establishes the three levels of realizing the Supreme Lord. These are progressive realization steps that bring us to a complete understanding of the Supreme. And so, with the first level of realization is this Brahman realization. And in a Brahman realization, one understands the Sat principle of Krishna, which means the eternal stand. So it is an impersonal realization, understanding the Sat feature of Krishna. Then we have the Paramatma realization. The Paramatma realization is seeing and understanding the Supreme Lord in his Paramatma feature. And this brings one to understand the Sat and Chit potencies, both the eternal and the knowledge, full of knowledge. And then we have Bhagavan realization. And in Bhagavan realization, it is complete. One understands the Sat, the Chit, and the Ananda aspects of the Lord. And so in this play, one understands the Supreme Lord to be Vigraha, to be a person. Right? So complete in Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So this is the three levels of understanding. And the example is given, there are many different analogies given of how these are progressive stages. When one is observing the Brahman, the impersonal realization, they are not seeing something different from the Bhagavan. They are simply gradations of realization. And the example is given, like if you are standing, in a valley, and in the far distance you see a city, you have a very faint realization of that city. You can see the outline, you can see the heights of some buildings, but you have a very faint understanding, very dim understanding of that city. And as you walk closer to that city and you approach the gate, the entrance to the city, now you have a little bit more realization of that city. You can hear some sounds, you might be able to see some people, you can smell some different things coming, and so now your realization of that city is a little bit more progressed. And once you enter that city and begin to interact with the people and see inside the different buildings, now you have a full realization of that city. So like that, this Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagavan realization are steps of expanding and increasing realization. Like in the distance, you were looking at the same city that you ultimately entered into. So they're not different things that we're realizing. The Brahman effulgence, the Paramatma realization, and Bhagavan, they're all connected. But the level of understanding progresses as one moves from this Bhagavan, from Brahman to Bhagavan realization. Okay? So this is important because the impersonalists speak about this Brahman realization. Right? The Jnanis speak about the Paramatma realization. But the Bhakti Yogis, they see the full features of the Lord in this Sat Chit and Ananda. So that is our understanding here. So now this very important verse, Om Purnamadaha Purnam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. So this is a very interesting verse, and we get a little bit of flavor for maybe some of the the philosophical and enigmatic nature of this Isopanisad with just this first verse. So we'll just read it quickly. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because Him, He is perfectly complete. In all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because He is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. Whew. So a bit of a puzzle. So we'll break apart this very important verse, and there are some great important conclusions we're going to draw from this verse. So let's understand three different aspects of this verse in detail. Because many statements which describe the source of this creation, the Lord, are all linked together. So first is that Krishna is perfect and complete. And what it means is that there is nothing that is lacking. There are no errors, there are no shortcomings, there are no lack of resources or abilities. And we know He is perfect because He is omniscient, meaning He knows everything that is going on. There is no corner of the universe where one can go outside of the understanding of the Supreme Lord. He is omniscient. We don't know what is happening just in the next room, but Krishna knows everything. He is omnipotent, meaning He is full in control, meaning nothing can happen without His sanction. Whoever Krishna wants to protect, no one can harm. Whoever Krishna wants to harm, no one can protect. He has full power. So He's all-knowing, He has full power, and He's omnipresent. He is everywhere. Right? So everything is happening under His jurisdiction. So He is perfect and complete. And He is complete in that He is fully self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything from us or from anyone because He is complete. We, on the other hand, we have so many needs from different people. But Krishna is Atmarama, self-satisfied. But still, He is anxious to have our love. But if it does not come, He'll not be any less complete. So we should be very understanding of that, right? We have wants because there's something that we don't have. But when you are complete, you have no wants because you have everything. Right? That is the definition of complete. So as soon as we have some wants and desires, it means that there is, something incomplete about us. But Krishna is perfect and complete. So that's the first statement in this invocation. Right? Then it says that all emanations from him are perfectly complete. So the creation that he makes, emanations mean whatever he creates, they are equipped with all the facilities. They are complete. There is nothing missing from his creations. And they are made complete so that one can realize the complete whole of Krishna. So whatever the complete person makes, by definition, is also complete. Because he has unlimited resources. Right? So if I'm building something, if I have limited resources, then my creation is also limited. It may not be complete. But because Krishna has unlimited resources, whatever he manufactures, whatever he makes, has no limitations. So he equips everything as a complete whole. So this verse establishes that all the emanations from the Lord are complete. So whenever we feel any incompleteness of this world, we should understand that it is only due to our lack of knowledge. Because it is equipped completely to realize the complete whole, which is Krishna. So any feeling of incompleteness, oh, this is missing, this is not there, that is simply due to our lack of knowledge, of knowing who I am and who the complete whole is. So very important that this, everything that's created is complete. And finally, even though Krishna is creating so many things that are also complete, he remains complete. This is his Purnam Eva Vishishyate. This is the spiritual math. 1 plus 1 equals 1. 1 minus 1 also equals 1. So God is infinite. Infinity, minus anything is still infinity. Let's give a simple example. If you go to the ATM machine and you have $100 in your bank account, if I take $1 out, then what is left? $99. But Krishna, he is complete. When he manufactures something, he does not become any lesser. He remains the complete whole. So when he takes $1 out of his account, still the balance is 100. So Krishna is creating unlimited number of universes, each in which is complete, yet he is never depleted. He remains the complete whole. So some people, think by their own logic, wait a minute, if Krishna is present through all of his diverse energies to create these creations, then he must have lost his original form. Not understanding that he remains situated in Goloka Vrindavan, though he is present everywhere. And we'll see that verse later in the Isopanisad, explaining how he is near and far. So the important point here again is that no matter how many unlimited complete creations Krishna is making, he remains the complete whole. So many incarnations like that. And one material way for us to understand it, or have some semblance of this, is the sun. The sun is constantly emanating so much energy, yet it is not shrinking by the amount of sunlight that is being given off. Right? It doesn't run out. Right? Again, these material examples are not perfect, but they try to give us an idea. Right? So the sun is constantly emanating so much energy, yet it is not reducing or dwindling. So like that, Krishna is creating so many things that are complete and extraordinary, yet he is not depleted in any way. He remains the complete whole. Right? So this is why we see when Krishna eats, still the whole plate is left for us to honor. He is eating. He is eating. But it still remains there for us also. So this is the spiritual math, this Purnameva Shishishite. So now, just concluding, what are the conclusions or the implications from this introduction in invocation verse? There's some very important and critical implications and conclusions. So the first is that Krishna must have a form. If he is the complete whole, he cannot be missing something. How can we have a form and then Krishna not have a form? Right? The source must have everything that the byproduct has. Right? So if we have our own individuality, then certainly Krishna must have his own individuality. Right? Otherwise, how he can be complete? So we cannot have something that the Supreme Lord does not have, excuse me. Right? So, and that also means that Krishna has an impersonal form as well. Because there's nothing he does not have. There are impersonal or energy type existences here, like the sunshine. So then the Lord must also have a feature like that. So he has both a form and a formless feature. But to say he has no form, it then means he's incomplete. And that goes, again, contradicts this very important statement that Krishna is the complete whole. Okay? And that is why we say the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because God is a person, not an impersonal, just energy. Yes, he has a feature that is impersonal. But ultimately, God is a person. Right? So that's an important conclusion for us. 2, that everything in this world is equipped completely. And thus, there's no extraneous effort needed to maintain our existence. All the elements of the material world are such supplied that there is ample materials and supply for everyone. And we'll see next week in verse 1 that there is an actual quota of resources set aside for each and every living entity. Because Krishna is complete, his creation is complete with everything. There's no shortage because he never runs out of supplies. Right? So we don't need to work harder to try to create our existence. They simply have to work smarter. And all the facilities are given for the jiva to do what? To realize the complete whole. And that is the challenge. When we try to use the facilities for some other purpose, then there may be a feeling of incompleteness. Oh, I'm missing this or I'm missing that. But there is actually no incompleteness. And if we analyze the world around us, we see there are so many practical examples how Krishna has perfectly arranged this world. How a mother begins to develop milk only at the time in which the baby is born. Not before, not after. Providing the needed nourishment for that new baby. How the humans and the animals live with the different plants. We need oxygen, and plants need carbon dioxide. We give off carbon dioxide, and plants give off oxygen. It's a perfect symbiotic relationship. The modern industrialists, they are dreaming of how to create perfect symbiotic relationships. Whatever factory A creates is the input for factory B, and whatever factory B creates is the input for factory A. And there is no waste in the system. Well, Krishna has actually created this system so perfectly, so completely. Every living entity is provided food. There's the elephants. They eat 50 to 100 pounds of food every day. Do they have to go to Costco to get their food? Big bulk warehouses? No. Nature is providing. For the elephant down to the ant, every living entity is provided with sufficient foodstuffs. So like this, if we analyze, the precision of the movements of the planets around it, everything is perfectly created. So the designer and controller here is there even if we don't see it. Right? And this is the automation, if you will, that the Lord has created, because He's made this complete place. Right? So now, why did He create the complete wholes of these material worlds? What is the purpose? He created the complete universes so that we don't have to labor so hard. We don't have to work so difficultly, but simply to focus on connecting with the complete whole, Krishna. That is why He equipped everything that is needed, so that we can spend our time and energy on reconnecting with the complete whole. If you analyze, we are searching for complete satisfaction. We want 100% total fulfillment. And due to illusion, we don't understand that this world has given us everything to achieve that complete satisfaction. Because by definition, if it is complete, it means one can also find complete satisfaction. But in ignorance, we're spending so much time trying to complete our lives with sense enjoyment and material sense gratification. And thus, we feel this, we have this emotion of frustration. And what does frustration mean? We want something that is not there. But if it is complete, the complete whole, then by definition, everything should be there. So the feeling of incompleteness is that we have not understood the purpose of this creation. It is due to the misalignment of how this and why this world was created. So the frustration of not enough food or not enough jewels, not enough money, it is simply due to not having the right understanding of why this place was created. And so this brings us to the concluding point and the essence of everything is that our complete happiness, our complete satisfaction, it is only achieved when one connects to the complete whole. The human form of life, it does represent the complete consciousness of all living entities. Other living entities don't have this full consciousness. But the complete consciousness is meant for us to realize the ultimate purpose of life. And we should know that the completeness that we are searching for, it is only achieved when we connect with the complete whole, and that is Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that the completeness of human life can be realized only when one engages in the service of the complete whole. So this bit of a puzzle of a verse, the conclusion is complete happiness is achieved by serving that who is complete, and that is Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example of the hand. The hand is complete when it is connected to the whole. The hand lying, on the floor has no value. But the hand becomes complete when it's connected to the whole of the body. So similarly, our position as an insignificant, tiny speck becomes complete when it is connected to the complete whole. So that is the importance. So when we engage in service to Krishna, who is the complete whole, then we'll experience complete happiness and satisfaction. Until then, we'll not have anything else. And remember, because Krishna is complete, He never is shy to shower unlimited mercy and facilities upon His loving devotees. A rich man, if he gives $1, is now poor by $1. But Krishna, because he remains complete, is never shy to give everything to his devotees. So when his devotees surrender everything to Krishna, Krishna reciprocates by surrendering everything back. And this is the loving relationship that exists. And so if we don't understand this opportunity to become complete, then we will cycle back down through the 8.4 million species of life, lose this complete consciousness we have, and have to fight back again to come back to this human form of life. And we'll talk about that later in the Isopanisad. So this is the introduction and invocation. As I mentioned in the beginning, a little bit, this Isopanisad is a little bit, enigmatic and difficult to understand initially. So by hearing these purports and discussing, we'll be able to break apart the meanings of these. So don't become, frustrated if the verses are a little bit, difficult to understand. But the conclusions are very, very sweet and perfect. So, okay. So any questions or discussion?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dharma Pranam.
Thank you so much, Nitya. Very much pronounced.
Prabhuji, I know you were mentioning somewhere in the middle, like the conclusions from the invocation verse. So I think I missed out that part. Like Krishna must have a form. You did mention if he doesn't have a form, then he's then incomplete. But since he is complete, so therefore he has a form. So could you kind of really elaborate on that part?
Yeah.
I know that from the verse we know that he is complete, but why he is having a form? Because of the Sachidanand part of it. Is that the reason you're talking about?
No, because you have a form, I have a form. So if I have a form and you have a form, that means in the totality of everything, there is a form. So how Krishna cannot have a form if we have a form? So if that were the case, then it would mean Krishna is incomplete, because there is something that exists outside of him. So we see so many forms around us, right? So by that basic definition, if we have a form, then Krishna must also have a form, because he is complete. We can have nothing that is not included within the complete. Right? Just like an example Prabhupada would give, that if you're a millionaire, you also have $10, you have $1,000, $100,000, and $1 million. They're all included. So similarly, if we have a form, then Krishna must also have a form. The source of something cannot produce something that he does not have. Right? So the source of anything must have everything that is within whatever is created from that source. Whatever comes out of a factory, for example, must be contained within the factory. So if we are creations of the Supreme Lord, and we have a form, then the Creator must also have a form. That's the... Is that
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah, perfect. I understand that completely.
Yeah.
Second question. Now, second part, you said everything in the world is provided by the nature, right? Now, but he's providing unlimited facilities, but then those are being exploited by us. So therefore, we feel that resources are exhaustible. I mean, everything, we are running out of some stuff. So because of our ignorance, that we are trying to lord and exploit them, that is the reason. And not using it for the purpose what it was meant for. Is
Yeah.
that what I'm trying to understand from that?
Yes.
Because this facility is actually supposed to be giving us unlimited facilities, but we are kind of running out of some stuff, right?
Yes. No. Nice point and clarification. So there's two aspects to that. One, our feeling of incompleteness is due to not understanding where to find complete happiness. So, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough fame. I don't have enough jewels. I don't have enough that, right? That's a feeling of incompleteness. But that is there because one, we have not realized that actually the complete satisfaction we are looking for from those jewels and from that money and from the fame and beauty, that because we want that to be fully happy. But that full happiness only exists in relationship with the complete whole. So the feeling of incompleteness is due to not understanding where complete happiness exists. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is the shortages that exist in the world. One may argue, wait a minute, there is shortage of clean water in so many places, right? There is shortage of food stuff. So you have said it's complete whole. Everything is there. So these shortages are created by the misactivities of the living entities, particularly the humans. So when we misuse the resources, and then there are sinful reactions from those activities, then the suffering must come. The reactions must come. And thus, there is shortages. But there is no actual shortage in the world. But we are put into positions of experiencing shortages due to the sinful reactions of our activities. So we'll see in the next week's verse, in verse 1, that for every living entity, there is a set aside quota of sufficient resources. And so we see very simply in the, in the national, the geopolitical environment, that nations are claiming, this land is mine, this land is mine. And there is a hoarding of resources. And that hoarding of resources creates surpluses in some areas and shortages in the other areas. And Srila Prabhupada used to always comment on this, that in the U.S., there is vast destruction of foods. There are grain that are cultivated and then thrown into the river. Why? To create an artificial increase in price of goods. So there's a surplus of foods here, yet there's a shortage somewhere else. But due to the political situation, there is not a sharing of those resources. Right? So across multiple dimensions, that's why we experience so-called shortages, though the nature is completed as a whole. So due to our the reactions of our sins, as well as the greedy nature of the living entity, not understanding the purpose of the facilities created, that creates experiences of insufficient resources. But in reality, there's full resources for every living entity. Because Krishna, being all-loving, would never send a living entity somewhere and not have sufficient resources, right? Like a father and mother would never send a child into a room that does not have sufficient oxygen for that child to live. Similarly, Krishna would never send living entities somewhere where there is not sufficient foodstuffs and facilities for our comfort. That makes sense? Is that okay?
Yeah, I got that. There's one more. When you talked about this, Krishna remains always complete, right? Despite he's giving, he's emanating all the unlimited universes, but he still remains complete. So can we understand that Achinta Bhed, that thing is there, right? Which we keep come across all the time, Achinta Bhed. So can we kind of relate it to that, or it is not? It is independent of that.
That's a different principle. The Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva is that there is simultaneously oneness and difference. So, and we'll discuss that in the coming verses. But so slightly different principle. The principle here is this Purname Bhakti Shishyate, that Krishna is never depleted, right? So, and we don't understand it. We can't understand it because we have no experience of it. In the material world, everything is it's a zero-sum game. If I give, then I have less, and someone else gains. Right? That is the nature of the material world. So it's very difficult for us to understand it. So it is an inconceivable potency, but a little bit different than this Achintya Bheda Bheda.
But we can understand that way, like in the material sense. Can we understand, like, mother's love? Like, even if she's giving it to one child, it's not that she's going to run out of the love to give it to the other.
No, but even in a mother's ability to love, right? She cannot be with both children at the same time giving. There's a limit. The expression of love is not limited. Sorry, the feeling of love is not limited, but the expression of it is. And thus children compete, right, for mother's attention and affection. Right? Because the mother is limited. But Krishna, when he is dancing with the gopis, he is reciprocating with each of them. Or the 16,108 queens of Dwarka. He is unlimitedly, or all the cowherd boys, or the cows, the 900,000 cows of Nanda Maharaj. He is expressing his love to each and every one of them without limiting the experience of the next cow. They each experience a complete satisfaction of reciprocation from Krishna. But their complete satisfaction doesn't limit somebody else, because Krishna is complete. So if I'm giving full attention to one child, then of course the other child will feel less attention, because I am limited. I am not complete. Right? But Krishna, when he gives full attention to one living entity, he simultaneously can give a full attention to another, and to another, and to another. Because when he gives to one, he remains complete and able to give full to the next, and full to the next, and full to the next.